if you watch my very long video of me taking this entire practice test, you might remember I really struggled with this question the first time I did it. I still don't love this question. I think it's too much of a stretch, but with these nearly mean questions, we're not really changing our strategy in any significant way. It's just that the word we're going to be asked about is now more of a word that like you probably do know the definition of in some way, but words can have multiple definitions and you know, context matters. And so if there is a strategy to pull out of this, it's probably not going to be not the common definition. So not always, I don't want you to just abide by that, but if you're totally confused by this question, you know, to dispute is to argue or to disapprove of something. So it's probably not those, right? Don't guess that. That's a little too obvious. We're in the hard module. We know it's a hard question. So probably not a good bet, but I don't know. I haven't seen enough of these questions to know for sure what the right strategy is yet. But that's kind of the strategy I followed when I did this first time. So let's take a look. Let me stop talking about it. Let's just do it. Following text is adapted from James Baldwin's 1956 novel, Giovanni's Room. The narrator is riding in a taxi down a street lined with food vendors and shoppers in Paris, France. The multitude of Paris seems to be dressed in blue every day but Sunday, when, for the most part, they put on an unbelievably festive black. Here they were now, in blue, disputing every inch our passage with their wagons, hand trucks, their bursting baskets carried at an angle steeply self-confident on the back. So, dumb summary, what's happening here? Well, they're in like on a road, but it's filled with food vendors and shoppers, right? It's filled with people, right? Their wagons are, you know, maybe kind of getting in the way. We get that from there. The bursting baskets, like there's just like a lot of people. That's the point, is there's a lot of people here. So why would we talk about arguing then? Here they are now in blue arguing about every inch our passage, right? So they're not fighting with these people, like not in the literal sense of like having an argument. We have no evidence of that, right? So we need some sort of evidence. So this, again, I was already skeptical from the start, but like we need evidence that there's an argument. Same thing with disapproval, right? Like where's the evidence that there's some sort of disapproval? Like these people in the street in Paris are disapproving of these people driving down the taxi down the road. Like I don't know. Like again, I don't have any evidence of that. And then asserting possession of they're taking the taxi. What does that even mean? So it doesn't really fit. Providing resistance to, again, I feel like this is a bit of a stretch, but it makes some sense, right? I can kind of see it where I'm like, all right, the street is filled with people. Just think of a busy street and a taxi, a car is trying to go down that street and the people are in the way. You can't go fast, right? You got to honk and like people are going to move out of the way but they're going to take their time because there's so many of them. So that's what it is. That's the answer. But I don't think I've ever heard the word disputing used in this way of meaning like getting in the way of something. Like, I don't know, but that's what it means here. We do have evidence of it. It's not obvious evidence to me when I first started this question. It's not like I read this and was like, oh yeah, the people are in the way of the car. Like I had to force that. I had to kind of read all the choices and be like, can I make any of these make any sense? And so only D was I able to kind of like squeeze some evidence out of this passage and be like, okay, they said it in a little blurb at the beginning. It's kind of reiterated in the story itself. There's a lot of people about, you're in a taxi, they're getting in the way. They're making it harder for the taxi to go. Luckily, we will not get many questions like this, but file it away what I said at the beginning, right? That if you do get one of these and it's really hard and you're having trouble understanding what's happening, it's probably not going to be the case that the most obvious normal definition of the word is the right one. In the first module, maybe, in the easy module, maybe, but we are clearly in the hard module. You would know that by now. The first 3 vocab questions had all like hard passages, hard words. So you would know that. And then at the very least, if you had to guess, I think you're probably guessing between C and D, and because they're less obvious, they're less common definitions. So feel free to comment if you've got any thoughts on that. I'm curious if we're using that strategy in other places and it's starting to show some evidence that it works.